Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special Watchalong live with the Pro Soccer Talk crew. I'm your host, Joe Prince-Wright. Delighted to be joined by our team, Nick Mendola in Buffalo, New York, and Andy Edwards in Kansas City. I'm over here in England, and we are going to join you for this incredible moment in North American soccer and world soccer. The 2026 FIFA World Cup draw is taking place right now in a snowy Washington, D.C. You can watch live on Telemundo in the US in Spanish, and in Spanish on Peacock streaming as well, and in English on Fox across the US. And obviously have us up in the other window as well. And get your questions coming in. Send your questions direct to us. And over the next, hour or so, we'll be breaking down the draw as this mammoth World Cup, the biggest ever in history, 48 teams, find out who they're going to be playing next summer across the USA, Canada, and Mexico. Before we get into it, in terms of explaining how the draw works and then focusing on who's playing who as the teams are starting to be drawn out very shortly here, Nick Mendola, I want to come to you in terms of your general thoughts on the World Cup draw. I mean, how excited are you? Because I think for us, we've had this in our mind for a very long time as a real milestone that the World Cup on North American soil is nearly here. And this is a big moment, right? One that people have been waiting a long, long time for. So I'm very excited. How are you feeling, mate?
Yeah, very, very, very excited. I always love the World Cup. It's one of those things I lament. Like whenever the World Cup ends, I think to myself, well, I've only got so many left, right? Like it is absolutely, definitively, with all due respect to every other sport, it is the one thing that when it happens takes over my life. And it takes over the lives of people who don't even necessarily love the sport. So for the U.S., I'm actually more amped up now. I would have been amped up anyways, but they look good now. And they look like they have an identity. They look like their egos are finally in check, and I credit Mauricio Pochettino for that. And there's a really good chance they get a favorable draw. They will, as you're about to explain, I'm sure, as a pot one team as hosts, they, along with Mexico and Canada, will avoid the other 9 top-ranked teams in the world. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the rest of the pots and knowing that you can only get 2 from Europe and that there are 16 teams in Europe, there's a really good chance for the U.S. To not just advance from the group, but potentially win their group. And again, we'll get into all that later. But when I did the math and looked at the bracket and saw that winning the group, Joe, would mean for the U.S. a third-place team no matter what from another group, I got even more amped. So I'm here. I was here, and I'm here.
Andy, how are you feeling, mate? Because obviously Kansas City, where you are, is going to be hosting games. And at the moment we're seeing, scenes from all across the 3 host nations on our screens as we build up to this draw, and the fans, the passion, what this brings to different cities. And this is a monumental moment for the game of soccer, football in North America, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a little surreal because, like Nick just said, the World Cup begins. It doesn't matter that it is on American soil and Mexican soil and Canadian soil this time around. It helps a little bit more. It's that cherry on top. But to have it happening in my hometown, where I've lived my entire life and where I have spent watching all of these tournaments, played all over the entire globe over the last 20, 25 years as an adult, it's very, very cool. And to think that, 10 minutes from where I grew up, there's potential that Lionel Messi could play in a World Cup game there. Just the World Cup makes a big, big world feel so small. And I think that's one of the things that we enjoy about it, and we learn about so many different places and people, and get caught up in the stories of the World Cup and what happens on the field. And I do think the fact that this is the first 48-team World Cup is going to make it even better as well. We've got enough quality teams around the world now to fill out a 48-team tournament and have it be very competitive. I think that's what we're going to get. We get the extra round of knockouts. There's nothing about this format similar to what we've talked about with the UEFA Champions League the last couple of years that doesn't improve the competition. And for that alone, I'm excited for this tournament and what it will make the World Cup in the future as well.
Oh, it's going to be absolutely incredible. I couldn't wait before this draw, but now seeing all the scenes from across Canada, Mexico, and the US with the fans getting fired up to be hosting this games, you're right. It just takes you even closer to what is going to be a brilliant summer next summer. In terms of that, then let's go through explaining how this World Cup draw is going to work. We have lots of articles over on Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com breaking down who's in what pot. We have details on exactly how it will work, as Gianni Infantino, the FIFA president, now is back out on stage. You've got the World Cup trophy there, and we've seen our first glimpse of the pots and balls in there. We all know how that works, but essentially you can see the pots here that our wonderful producer FA has put up on the screen. Pot 1, you can see the 12 teams there. The 3 host nations, US, Canada, and Mexico, are put in pot 1 as the hosts. Then the next top 9 ranked teams in the world based on FIFA's rankings are next. And then in pot 2 are the next 12 teams in terms of the rankings. Pot 3 the same. And pot 4, you see 6 teams in there and 6 blank spots. And those 6 blank spots are the final 6 teams that will qualify for this 48-team World Cup. And that will be decided in March 2026 after the UEFA playoffs, 4 more teams from UEFA. And we'll have 2 more teams from the Inter-Confederation playoffs, which will take place in March as well. So I think that's pretty much it, apart from the key rule that no teams from the same region or confederation can be drawn against each other in the same group, except from UEFA. There's so many European teams in this tournament that there is a maximum of 2 European teams per group, and there's going to be 12 groups with 4 teams in each. Top 2 teams will qualify for the round of 32, and the 8 teams who finish with the best record of 3rd place in the groups will join them in the round of 32. So, Nick, if I missed anything there, I feel like I covered most of that. And the only other thing to note is that the match schedule will actually come out tomorrow, noon Eastern time, with the confirmed dates, times, venues for each of these games. So FIFA are going to give themselves about 24 hours or so to figure out best way to place teams in different regions based on time zones around the world, etc., and stadiums. But Nick, help me out. Is that good?
It's great. Today I just started really digging into it. I knew the schedule, and obviously the cool part about, at least for the US and really for any team, but you will know which team you're playing first, second, and third. Mm-hmm. So, for example, the US will play the team that they draw from pot 3, I believe, first. And I'll look over that. But what's so exciting about that is all of the US games are on the West Coast. So I'm excited to find out when FIFA wants them to play. Is it definitely going to be 8 p.m.? I doubt it's going to be 10 p.m. Will it be? Because it's Friday, Thursday during the group stage for the U.S., which is excellent because it's short workday, take off the next Friday. I mean, no offense to you. I know you can schedule me on those days, but we'll see if I work. I'm just absolutely buzzing for this thing. I think for Canada and Mexico both to be home, it's also exciting. I'm here in Buffalo. We're, depending on where you are in Buffalo, anywhere between 2 minutes and 20 minutes from the border. And I know there's so much excitement up there. And Mexico as well. Like, I honestly, I'm not trying to, they've been a fantastic program, but they haven't been at their best. But being on home soil will be such an amazing moment for them for the first time in what, is it 40 years? So it's, I don't know, man, I'm buzzing. I'm already ready to talk about who's going to win what group and, what this means for Messi and Ronaldo. And I'm ready.
While we're on the pot stage of this whole entire thing here, there is a huge potential wrinkle out there, and that's Italy coming into a group out of pot 4. And so you're potentially going to have one of the massive powerhouses from pot 1, unless one of the 3 host nations that are going to get, potentially, we'll see what happens in the UEFA playoffs, but they're going to get a top 12 ranked team in the world parachute in March when they otherwise might have thought they were going to be on easy street. Now, that's no disrespect to Wales, Northern Ireland, and Bosnia and Herzegovina, the other 3 teams in that playoff path in UEFA. But I think we would all probably back Italy to come out of there. And so I think that gives one of the 3 host nations a better chance of drawing Italy in this draw just based on that fact. So fingers crossed, not the US.
Definitely. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, Joe. It's not so much that the U.S. could necessarily get Italy. It's that they're probably getting someone from Europe because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 European teams. There's only, a 1 in 5 chance, really, that they won't. I'm sure that number's wrong, but I also, not just because of our producer, Turkey, I'm a little nervous. I wouldn't want them. I think they could come out of this too and be a true tournament dark horse.
True, very true. All right, so in terms of the comments, see a lot of comments coming in, so thanks everyone for joining us. Quite simply, let us know where in the world you're watching from. I think when we did a lot of these watch-alongs during the last World Cup in 2022, it was great to have regular customers, shall we say, in terms of repeat people keep coming back and keep joining us for all the big games. So let us know where you are in the world and how you're watching this. And I think as well, send us your predictions. Who are the dark horses? Which teams do you think are going to go far and surprise everyone? And I think as well, as we watch this now, Nick, in terms of the pots are about to come out for USA, Canada, and Mexico in terms of which group they're going to be placed in. And we already know that, but this is a ceremonial thing happening on our screens right now. But can you remember where you were when it was announced that this bid was successful and the World Cup was coming to North American soil? Because I can remember the exact place and time where I was as a college student at the University of Pittsburgh, in the living room with all my teammates. Everyone went crazy, and it just, that was 15 years ago now. So still now it resonates strongly with me.
I remember first reading the reports and getting excited because, at the time, I was just starting my family, and the hopes were that my child, whoever it would be, would grow up to want to watch the game. And I was 12, I believe, something like that, at the first time the World Cup came here, and didn't really have the opportunity to go anywhere and see it, just because it was just a different world, right, travel wise. So now, knowing that we're going to get games near me. I have places I want to go. I don't know if I've talked to you guys about this. I have secret cities I want to go that I hope get drawn teams that that maybe might make tickets a little easier to get. So if we could get two teams that won't necessarily travel well somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, that's kind of my goal, to be out there for that. But yeah, it's really thrilling because this sport, when Andy and I got into it, was still a dark horse sport in the US. Mm-hmm. And so it feels special whenever we get a legitimate seat at the table, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And let's go through, Andy, some of the people joining us. We have San Bernardino, California, Lake Tahoe, Nevada, West Palm, Florida. We have, a lot of people from all over the world here and across the US joining us. Atlanta, St. Paul, Kerala, Colorado, Japan, Mississippi, Maryland, Texas, Ethiopia, North Carolina, Wisconsin. Thanks for joining us from wherever you are around the world. As we are seeing the first three teams, the host nations, drawn out into their respective groups, and we already knew which groups they'd be in. USA as in Group D, as expected. Canada in Group B, and Mexico have been placed in Group A, and that is obviously for the purposes of having their home games in stadiums and in places where we know they're going to have home games. So I guess now comes slightly more exciting part, Nick and Andy, when we look at Andy, the rest of the top one is going to be drawn out now, and the likes of England, Spain, Argentina are going to be France, and we'll talk about the favorites, but they're going to be drawn out into their respective groups. And I think that's when we can start to get a bit excited about, it's not confirmed where the games will be played, but we have a pretty good idea of where these teams are going to be based next summer. And that, in my mind, is when it really starts to come to life, this tournament, when you can picture these players in certain cities and regions.
Yes, the World Cup is about to, in my mind, officially start here in the next couple of minutes, when these teams start going into the groups, and then we can start playing these out and predicting. And this is the dark horse. You could have an upset here. This is who's going to win the tournament. This is what we've been waiting for. It's why qualifying has been going on for the better part of the last 4 years since the last tournament ended. And so, like Nick says, just at this point, incredibly excited to see who the U.S. men's national team is going to get first and foremost. It's been a a rocky, kind of interesting road to get to this World Cup without having qualifying, the lack of competitive games, and it didn't look great for a while. And suddenly they've kind of turned a corner and after a full year under Pochettino, and you start to think, well, what are the possibilities of this team? Is everything that we talked about for years, is it actually possible? Is it actually going to come to fruition next summer? And it feels like it's possible. And I think when you talk about the World Cup from a fan of a team perspective, I think that's all you want, and you want a team that's going to go out there, that's going to play hard, that's not going to embarrass you as an American soccer fan when you go back on social media after the game. And if you get that, then I think everybody goes home happy. And I think this is a team that, fingers crossed, round of 16, maybe a quarterfinal team. If they get the right group, we're going to find out soon. And then if they can get the right path through the knockouts.
Absolutely. And we're getting a few people in the comments here asking, what do all these pots mean? And we'll go through it one more time while the draw is just unfolding here. Pot 1 is the 3 host nations and the top 9 ranked teams in the world. You can see them there, 12 teams there. Pot 2 is the next 12 highest ranked nations in the world. Pot 3, again, the next 12 ranked. And pot 4, the 6 teams there that have been confirmed are the 6 lowest ranked as of right now, and the 6 blank spots you can see in pot 4 are for the 4 winners of the European playoffs, which will happen in March, and the 2 winners of the Interconfederation playoffs, which will also happen in March, and then we'll have the full field. But we know 42 of the 48 teams right now that will be competing next summer. In the comments, I'm just going to chuck this out, a question to all of you guys. Who do you think is going to win the World Cup? Any overwhelming favorites? I'm sure that will get things going in the comments section, and there'll be a lot of comment. But I guess between us, Nick, Andy, as we build up here, Argentina, the reigning champions, were brilliant in World Cup qualifying in South America, just totally breezed through what is an absolute gauntlet in South American qualifying and made it look very easy. I guess Messi is kind of intimating, I still haven't made my mind up, Nick, but he probably is going to be at the World Cup, right? So you got him, and then in Europe, Spain, the reigning European champions. You have England and France looking particularly strong. Who are your favourites? We've got a lot of people here predicting USA, Portugal, Netherlands, USA again. I think it will be Curacao. That would be quite something.
I mean, I think they've taken that bet off the table. It's below odds. First of all, hello to Jeff Fox 1598 from Buffalo. I always have to say hello when someone says they're from Buffalo. And also Thermanasoi from Porto, because I got my scarf up there because I went there last summer. So 2 of my favorite places. I like Brazil. Maybe it's because I feel like they're a bit overdue. Maybe it's because I feel like the depth is incredible. I think they have a lot of X factor players, those sort of heart and guts players. Maybe I'm just super biased in favor of Bruno Guimaraes. That is extremely possible. But I think they've kind of quietly walked into that. And what does Brazil need more than as a coach? Their players know how to play the game. They need a guy who knows how to massage an ego. And I love me some Carlo Ancelotti. So I'm just feeling like, can Brazil ever be a dark horse? If so, the darkest horse I've ever seen. And I like them. Spain, don't forget Euro. Don't forget how good they looked. But Joe, let's be real. Andy, you know where I'm going with this.
No.
Where's the weakness on England? Where is England's weakness? And why can't they win the World Cup, Joseph?
That is a great question, and one generations have thought very long and hard about. England are stacked. I think this is the strongest England squad ever. I think if you could have 3 starting lineups, that would probably get close to the quarterfinals of the World Cup. And I don't think that's me. I don't want to be too positive about the England team, because usually that goes bad for anybody, but who's English and thinks really good things about this national team. But they're trending in the right direction, getting to the last 2 European finals, losing both, but very consistent core group there. When you've got Harry Kane, the same for Argentina with Messi, and France with Mbappe. I think you can win any game, as long as you're in it. And I think there's now, maybe under Thomas Tuchel, we saw them go through the entire qualification process perfect in Europe, and he has that kind of tactical nous and the in-game management that I think was probably the last piece of the jigsaw for this English team. So feel pretty good about England's chances, depending on the draw we're about to see. But yeah, Andy, who are your favourites? Because again, in the comments, a lot of good comments coming in, and I think it's perhaps a bit more wide open this tournament than we're saying. There's probably 5 or 6 really elite top nations that could do it, but it also wouldn't surprise us, right? If, like Morocco last time out, we do get a couple of teams that go really far.
Yeah, and this is part of the reason that the World Cup needed to be expanded this time around as well. There's not just more teams that should be qualified. There's more teams that are really contesting to win the tournament now. There's 2 or 3 from South America. There's 5 or 6 from Europe. And there's a couple of African nations, that Morocco being the prime example last time around. Nobody saw that, but the way that they breezed through qualifying, they get to host the Africa Cup of Nations coming up later this month, a chance to build an incredible amount of momentum going into the World Cup next summer. So there are threats all over. I find it pretty hard to look past France, and I feel like nobody's talking about them right now. Obviously, they have all the attacking talent in the world. If Didier Deschamps can put the pieces together the right way, I do worry a little bit about them injury-wise defensively. They rely on 2 or 3 very key players a lot, and they tend to be injured a lot. And so what becomes of that team if they are? But for me, it is still Argentina. And I know Messi is putting up absurd numbers in MLS every single week, but he's kind of doing it while coasting through. And I think the move to MLS at the time that he did was a bit strategic and meant to keep him as fresh as possible for this final World Cup coming up in 2026, and a chance to go out there, defend the title, repeat, and just put an end to any debate or even conversation about the greatest of all time. Because if he goes out and wins back-to-back World Cups at the age of 35 and 39, then what are we talking about here?
Oh yeah, Nick, this is just keeping us waiting, right, on this draw. They've got another musical performance here at the moment.
It's all right. It's all right. Yeah. We can shout out a few more people.
Let's do it. Go ahead.
Yeah, we got Mark Judson saying Yamal can't be stopped. Could be I love this looming subplot that we got in the Chelsea-Barca game of my favorite thing, real quick. You guys hear the story before the Chelsea game that I forget who it was interviewing Estevao, right? And he said, "Hey, I've been calling you Estevao, but I heard it might be Stevao." And he stops him and he goes, "You can just call me Steve." That is my thing. From the team that brought us Dave Azpilicueta, that really made a difference to me. But yeah, no, I'm excited for the young talent of this tournament. So I like this Yamal can't be stopped thing. Ecuador are this World Cup edition's dark horse from Jerry Figueroa. What I love about that is people talk about the weather in these tournaments. It comes up, and South America, North America, Africa to some extent might be a little bit better equipped. I don't know how you feel about that sort of bias against Europe, Joe. And then, a shout out to me, Rob Williamson, indoor soccer player for the St. Louis Ambush. Hello to you.
Nice one.
How do you feel about that? When you hear, wow, these European teams are going to come to the United States and melt because they've never seen the sun. Like, how do you feel when you hear that?
Tuchel said today he might leave the players in the locker room, the subs in the locker room.
Yeah, I think it's going to be different for sure. It's going to be a different environment, but I think most of these teams will be very well prepared and be in the North American country, wherever they're based, a long time before the tournament, and they'll have all kinds of sports scientists, and I think it'll be okay. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference when all is said and done. In terms of the comments, I saw we had one coming in about the Golden Boot predictions, and that leads us nicely off of, Harry Kane, Mbappe, Messi, Ronaldo. There you go. David McCracken saying, who's going to be the Golden Boot winner? Probably go with Mbappe, if I'm honest, at this point. Just he seems pretty unstoppable, like Andy was mentioning, in France, and the sort of the service that they can get him and the confidence from scoring so many goals for Real Madrid already this season. But yeah, Andy, anybody else stand out for you?
The way that the World Cup is played on the field sets up well for Mbappe as well. It's a lot of deeper defending and a lot of counterattacking. And what we've seen, I think, over the last couple of tournaments is whoever can be the most solid defensively and has great athletes up front is going to be successful. If you can be rock solid at the back, not give up a ton of chances, clear the ball, keep it relatively simple, and you've got a player like Mbappe up top, he's going to thrive. I think also probably Erling Haaland with all of the other talent that's around him. And it's and obviously we know Martin Odegaard from every week in the Premier League, but Alexander Sorloth, Jorgen Strand Larsen, Osgard, it's a big physical team. I think they're going to be real bullies at this tournament, and I think the ability to counterattack, play the long ball is going to set up a lot of chances for Haaland. And so I am incredibly excited that, one, we get to see him at a World Cup, but we're doing it so young in his career as well, to the point that this should become a normal thing throughout his career, that Norway are there every single 4 years. And so we get to see what is going to go down as one of the best strikers of all time play at the very, very top level and write a completely different, part of his legacy as a player, because we all know the World Cup, there are World Cup moments that transcend the sport, and you remember a player for something they did with their national team and completely forget sometimes who they played their club ball for.
That's true.
I think you might end up with a situation, though. Holland might be a good one. You have to match up a team that can make a long run with a team that doesn't have super depth, right? Someone's going to play 260 of the 270 minutes because, honestly, the name I like here is Julian Alvarez, but Lautaro Martinez sometimes comes off the bench there, right? And sometimes he starts. With Holland, I think he'll play every minute. Will Norway make that run deep into the tournament? That's probably a reason. I'm going to show my bias here. Nick Voltemade might be the number one guy for Germany, and I think they will be sneaky good as well. But yeah, you have to match up the tournament run, because we were talking about beforehand, even the greatest players in the game, Messi, Ronaldo, their stats drop off after the group stage. Because if you think a team in the Champions League quarterfinal is going to hedge themselves defensively and be a little bit more defensive than you think, just wait till an entire nation is on your back, right? It just seems to get so. I don't remember the rare games are the ones you remember with loads of goals. France, when they knocked out Messi, was that 18 when France won the tournament. It was a 4-2 game, and you remember it because it was a knockout game with 6 goals. You just don't see that as much in these tournaments.
No, it's true. It's I'm still going Kane, Messi, or Mbappe. One of those
I like
three.
Kane for this a lot.
Yeah, probably.
When England wins the World Cup, Joe, I think it's inevitable that Harry Kane will win the Golden Boot.
There's a lot of ifs there, if I'm honest. We'll get there closer. I hope you're right. Hopefully FA can bookmark this, and then we can show it next summer at the end of the tournament. All right, we're still waiting for the rest of the pot 1 teams to be drawn out. But if you're just joining us, let us know where in the world you're watching from. We're delighted to have you along with us, myself, Joe Prince-Wright, Nick Mendola, Andy Edwards, the Pro Soccer Talk crew here, answering your questions, watching along with you. And remember, you can watch the World Cup draw live on Telemundo and on Peacock in the USA in Spanish and in Fox in English. And we are closer, I think, Nick, to pot 1 being drawn out. So let's get to some more questions.
Are we though?
I've got a good feeling. We're getting slightly closer anyway. We brought it up a few times. It's been some comments. Dark horses, Andy Edwards. Can I come to you on this in terms of, we talked to Norway, Ecuador. I think Colombia has been mentioned in the chat. Again, everyone in the comments, let us know who your dark horse is to win the tournament. Would it be weird to say that some of the host nations would be dark horses, or is that kind of just that extra asterisk next to them that we've seen it in past tournaments, right? How well the likes of South Korea did in 2002, and how that can really spur a nation on. But I think Norway's a great shout, and nobody's going to want them in pot 3.
Yeah, that's the absolute nightmare scenario for anyone to get Norway coming out of pot 3. You've already drawn a very, very tough team out of 2, a team that, especially if you're one of the host nations, is probably ranked just a little bit higher than you are in the FIFA rankings, and I think has more expectations. And so, yeah, getting Norway there, I think would be tough. And they have a couple of just difference makers that can win games on their own, and we've talked about them already. And so I think they have to be considered a dark horse team. Morocco, like I said earlier, getting to host an Africa Cup of Nations 6 months before the World Cup with a team that made such a deep run last time at the World Cup. They had a disappointment at the 2023 Cup of Nations, and so this year is just everything they've been building for. And we saw how tough they were, how defensively solid they were, and how much they love to attack space at the last World Cup. And so I think they are primed to have another really nice run at this tournament. I think the longer shot that I would say could really show up and make some noise at this one, and I think Nick mentioned it in the pre-show, Ecuador. Really what they did in South American qualifying, it was very impressive. There was little doubt about them qualifying about halfway through, and I think they even ended up finishing second in CONMEBOL, which is just when you think about the depth of quality down in South America, that is no small accomplishment. And so there has to be something there as well.
Yeah. Just looking on the screen here, Rio Ferdinand's making an appearance now. So more superstars involved in this draw. And Matthew McConaughey as well. There he is.
All right.
Yeah, there we go. So there's all sorts going on. A lot of great comments, though. I think the one about Egypt is if Mo Salah can recapture any kind of the form that he had last season, then obviously watch out. And it's a great point about teams playing an AFCON, which is starting in a few weeks' time, that they have a huge continental tournament just a few months before the World Cup. I mean, that's got to hold them in good stead.
Does that help or hurt, though?
I think it helps. I think personally it would help that you just switch straight back into that tournament mode, and you already have. It's so rare that you would have such recent experience of being in a tournament environment and being away and knowing what to do in certain situations. And the squads aren't going to change that much, right, from December, January until June.
And from an individual perspective, from a player perspective, the opportunity that you have to launch your name into the transfer market, if you want to think about it that way, next summer with an incredible 2025-2026 season, not just for your club, but for your national team, to do it at multiple tournaments and really launch your name into becoming a future star as well. So like the motivation, I think, also is there for those teams and those players in a way that I do think it is going to be an advantage. And I'll throw one more name in real quick. Is anybody going to not pick? I know he's 40, 41 now, but a Luka Modric at the World Cup. Is anybody not going to throw out Croatia as a dark horse team?
True.
You just reminded me of one of my favorite things of the last World Cup, which was World Cup fantasy. It was infuriating. But it just reminded me of those players that are going to be there in every game. Like what the last off game for Modric was probably when he was a teenager. Like it's just so consistent, and we'll have so many of those players at the tournament. I know it's been mentioned a few times. How about Senegal? Is there anyone you want less than a one-off matchup? Just the playmakers they have, and the playmakers still not just trying to make it for their country and for their continent, but trying to make it for hey, remember me, Sadio Mane. I went to Saudi Arabia, but I'm still a baller. Kalidou Koulibaly. I think there's something in there. Idrissa Gana Gueye, Pape Sarr. Like this is a real team, and I don't know if they can. I don't know what they have at the back, but I know they're going to be exciting.
Yeah, and Andy, there's obviously also a lot of first-time teams and a lot of minnows in terms of Curacao. I think is a team that a lot of people have an eye on to go quite far, given the quality of players there. A lot of them playing the Dutch top flight and kind of being underrated, but they were brilliant in qualifying. CONCACAF took the most and made the most of that opportunity with US, Canada, and Mexico already qualifying as hosts. And seeing them and then Suriname making it all the way to the Inter-Confederation playoff and nearly qualifying was quite something. So I'd love to see one of those real underdogs take on that mantle of not quite a Morocco, because I think Morocco, we already knew they were going to be decent at the last World Cup and they overachieved. But there's the potential here, right, for some of the smaller nations to make it into the knockout rounds, given the fact that teams who finish third in their group can make it to the last 32.
Yeah, you love. I love personally the Curacao project and what they've done there, and the way that they've operated and seen an opportunity in 2026 and built towards that moment. Whereas some other teams in CONCACAF this time around, it felt like, the Jamaicas, the Hondurases, it felt like they expected, okay, the three big teams are not going to be in there, and so we're just going to walk to qualification, and it did not happen that way. And that's what we talk about when there are enough good teams for an expanded World Cup. It is countries like Curacao putting together a national team in these moments. And now you think about the next World Cup cycle, that's probably a team that we're going to look at a lot differently and is going to be a lot more competitive in CONCACAF going forward. And getting to this World Cup is going to be a big part of that. So, even from that perspective, CONCACAF, I think, is benefiting. And that's in the long term going to benefit the U.S. men's national team as well, to just have another team with that World Cup experience in the region.
Yeah. And we're still waiting, by the way. Rio Ferdinand still on the screen for pot one. So I think we might be slightly behind schedule. But thanks everyone for joining us. Get your comments coming in. We'll give you a bit of a reminder here of which teams are in which pot. Pot one, as you can see there, the three host nations top left. And let's just go through Spain, Argentina, France, England, Brazil, Portugal, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany. And pot two, again, pot two and pot three, I think, Nick, is just riddled with danger. If you're a pot one team there, you're like, oh man, I don't want to get that. Oh, I don't want to get them either. I think in terms of dream draws, I mean, is there anybody as a US fan that you're like, I'd be okay with getting from pot two and pot three? What would be your kind of dream scenario?
And I hate saying this because I love the country and I rooted for them to make the tournament, but you're going to get somebody from Europe. And I think for the U.S. sake, I would prefer someone like Scotland, with an asterisk, because Here's why. I keep hearing about players who are thinking, oh, it's a World Cup. I have Scottish allegiance, like Harvey Mick Barnes, they're calling him at Newcastle now because his grandparents on one side are Scottish and he's being courted by, we've just seen over the years teams, I don't know when the deadline is to declare yourself, but yeah, I think the key for England as well is what other team do you get from Europe? Or if you're not from England, what European teams do you get? Because there's always a tournament savvy there, I think, with in terms of they know how to play the game. South America, it's often said the same way. But you're only going to get one team from South America, but at most, you're going to get a team from Europe. So Austria or Scotland, I think, are the key. Not that they're bad, but just to avoid a Croatia, to avoid Erling Haaland, to avoid one of the playoff teams. So I don't know if that's the answer you want to hear, but I think Scotland and then either New Zealand or Australia, I think would be a fun one and a nice matchup for the US.
Yeah, Andy, I'm looking at sort of pot two, and I don't want any part of Morocco, Ecuador, Croatia we mentioned, again, Senegal. Yeah, I mean, I've named most of the teams in pot two there, but you don't want any of them. In pot three, again, the ones that stand out, Norway. I don't want to play Scotland as an England fan. I would not want that. I suppose Egypt, like we said before, is kind of an asterisk with Salah, what kind of form he's in. But Ivory Coast as well. We've got to watch out for them. And yeah, it's very dangerous, right? Very, very tricky. And I think if you're watching this draw around the world and you see Croatia, Morocco, Norway go out early, you'll be very happy to have avoided them.
Well, one of the things, Joe, go ahead, Andy.
Nick, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Somebody, Lawrence Pack, in the comments mentioned that we're underestimating Austria. I want to get out a point about that. The teams that are in their first World Cup too, and Austria's best players, I feel great for Austria because for cycles, they were like they're going to be a dark horse at the World Cup, and then they don't make it. But Alaba, Arnautovic, there's a couple other players I'm blanking on, Konrad Leimer. These are players who, of course, they're going to be able to play well, but you don't know how they're going to react in that first situation. And it's one of those reasons that until a North American team wins or an African team wins or an Asian team wins, you're going to have to do something that someone else hasn't done. And in Austria's case, this is generation defining for their country.
No, I agree. And I think Austria have been great. Austria, Norway, and Scotland, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but since 1998, all three of those nations haven't qualified. So this is a huge moment for them. This is a generational moment to get in the tournament. Talking about generational, we have some generational talents here on the on Aaron Judge. Who else do we just have?
Wayne Gretzky's here.
Yeah. Wow.
The great one.
The great one.
What a nickname, by the way. The great one.
Great nickname. Had a chat with him on the pitch at White Hart Lane once, and it was unbelievable. What a moment. Some great comments coming in terms of some more love for Ecuador. Lone Star Londoner, I think, is going to regret this, and I say this as an England fan. As an England fan, we fear no one. So, probably true, to be fair, but I think Spain are stacked. We saw that in the Euros. All their young players are older, more experienced, wiser. France, I'm worried about them. Argentina, I feel like people are underestimating Argentina. Obviously, Messi is the focus, but the fact that they won the World Cup and then were so good in qualifying and there was no real drop-off whatsoever, again, was sensational. And who else we got here? Tom Brady's coming out and Shaq.
Shaq.
Yeah, wow. This is incredible panel for the draw. That is right, Jordan. So I think we're finally going to get close here to getting the pot one teams out. So again, thanks so much for joining us here, the Pro Soccer Talk crew. You can watch this draw live on Telemundo and on Peacock in Spanish. You can pull up that link and stream on one window, have us in the other window, and get your comments and questions coming in as it is happening. But this is just, they are really making us wait here.
Joe is, guys, for everybody out there, Joe is one of the most patient people I've ever met. I mean, he works with Andy and me. Like, this guy, he's got his finger on his own pulse, and that pulse is usually pretty low. And you can tell he is ready for this draw.
I'm ready. I'm fired up. I'm fired up for this. Okay, we got some comments here. I want to see Ghana against the USA. Oh, that was again another World Cup with that. Wow. Some Ghana shout outs there. Okay, Ecuador stacked, but I don't have a striker. I think they might struggle for goals. So, yeah, that's a fair point. But they are really good defensively, and Moises Caicedo is probably the best holding midfielder in the world right now.
Yeah, and how often do we see kind of defensive midfielder types go to a World Cup or the continental tournament, and they suddenly become just this shooting, goal scoring extraordinaire, and it's their opportunity to have freedom on the field and go forward and be the man. And he is that for Ecuador, and as good as he's been for Chelsea over the last couple of seasons, I would expect him to have a tournament like that. And so, if you can replace some of those goals from midfield in that way and just be a little bit more unpredictable rather than playing to a striker like a lot of teams are going to try to do, I think you can negate some of that. So I really like Ecuador. I really, really hope that the U.S. avoids them coming out of pot two. They're right there with Morocco and Senegal for me, for the teams that I want no part of if they're going to be at full strength.
Who would you guys bet on? Not bet on, but who would you guess has the best chance of taking their star to a whole nother level this summer? I mean, bias speaking, I want to look at a Tillman or a Pulisic, but beyond that, they're at big clubs already over in Europe. There's always someone who jumps off the page. McTominay could finally get his due, I guess, with Scotland right after. But I just wonder who's going to be the name that absolutely busts out. Is it Caicedo getting more widely acclaim in the world, right? Is it Guimaraes getting more acclaim in the world? Is it Pape Sarr? Like, all these players that are on teams that we've enjoyed watching in the Premier League, but maybe aren't the star of their team. I'm wondering who's the breakout player. Jonathan David.
That was going to be my name, to be honest. I think Canada, we haven't mentioned them, but again, I said it at the start, are the host nation a dark horse. I'm not sure if we're going to put them in that category, but I do really like what Canada has become under Jesse Marsh over the last 12 months. And He hasn't had a great time in Italy so far since making the switch, but we know his quality on the international stage, and I think that, I think he would be great. I think, again, silly to say, but Cole Palmer, if he's fit, is that a player that takes his, stardom to the global level? He already is being a star with Chelsea in the Premier League, but if he can get in ahead of Jude Bellingham and others, and maybe again Saka is a name that is a superstar that we know, but around the globe, this is potentially the time to really show what you're made of. And I mean, Lamine Yamal is the obvious one. Again, a superstar, but he is undoubtedly just getting started, let's say. And Escobar as well, we've mentioned from Brazil. So
that's Brazilian Steve.
Brazilian Steve, yes. Yamal, by the way, is the quietest Ballon d'Or runner-up that we've ever seen. Not him as being quiet, but just like we're talking about how people are going to know who he is, and he's voted already. This is one of those things. Like, we talk about Messi being 19 at his first World Cup, not even playing in the final knockout round game when Argentina went to the quarterfinal or the semifinal. Ronaldo was a star when he got his first World Cup, but Portugal made that run and he became a starter in that tournament at 21 years old. So this is where the people that we all talk about become the people the world all talks about. That's what makes this so darn special, right? Everybody, Andy, living in Kansas City, he's got the place that maybe most often gets the crowd shots, but everybody knows the pub or the restaurant in their town where they can go to watch any game with a ton of people. And it's the best time. It is, you wait for it for 4 years, almost as long as you wait for the draw. And
that is true. All right, the draw is beginning now. Tom Brady has started. He is unscrewing the little ball. So here we go, everyone. This is it. This is it. It's finally starting in pot one. Brazil is out first. And now we're going to find out which group they're in. And we can talk about, there's a shot of Carlo Ancelotti there in the stands looking as calm as ever, like he's just popped down the local shop for a newspaper and a pint of milk, and isn't really concerned about what all the fuss is about here. But it looks to me that they've gone into Group C, Brazil. So when we look at the bracket there and what that would mean for the World Cup, we're just pulling it up now because this is obviously just all happening at this moment. But if we look at it now, that seems like a pretty favorable draw for Brazil in terms of being in that part of the group. What do we think there in terms of Group C, lads? Nick, you got any thoughts on that? Because it looks like they are going to be, essentially, the schedule isn't confirmed, but they're going to play Foxborough, Philadelphia, and in Miami, or Atlanta, or MetLife. So it's a lot of, they're going to be on the East Coast. Let's put it that way. That's what we know. And Germany's out as well in Group E.
Look, Brazil is just one of those teams where I don't care where you put them. They have a second team, like if you just go attackers to play into the, I guess it's a little stereotypical, but they're so deep there. The players they're leaving out of their team right now would star for so many teams. Endrick wasn't in their last call-up list. Rafinha was injured. Igor Jesus, who we've seen be so good for Force. Martinelli wasn't in their last call-up list. The other Ederson, Joe Ellington. Like, this is a unit. And I think they'll probably win almost whatever group they're in.
Yeah, lots of groups coming out now, Andy. We've had nothing for a while, and oh my word, it's happening all at once. So we have the Netherlands coming out in Group F, Belgium in Group G, as I mentioned, Germany in Group E, and Spain in Group H there, just being drawn out. So yeah, it's all happening all of a sudden. Again, it's instant reaction in terms of we don't quite know where teams are going to be playing yet, but generally we know. So anything stand out to you right away?
Yeah, I'm very curious to see Spain. It's a young team, and they've completely turned it over, and obviously very, very good at the European Championship a couple of years ago. But it is different at a World Cup, and you get a lot more different styles that you come up against. You get a lot more physicality at the World Cup than you do at the European Championship, and so how that's going to translate into a more physical game. Maybe it's in the group stage, maybe it's in the early knockout rounds, but how they deal with that change of style, I think, is going to be an interesting subplot for them. Not that I disagree that they have all the talent in the world, but it's a little bit different at the World Cup, I think.
Quick thing to note, guys. I mentioned that if the U.S. win Group D, they get a third-place team. But they also somehow lucked into this situation. If they finish as runner-up, they get the runner-up from Group G. So we can keep an eye on who else ends up in Group G. It's one of only 2, 3, 4 runner-up versus runner-up matchups in the round of 32.
And yeah, we're just finishing up here. Argentina in Group J. France have been drawn to Group I. And the next team out is Portugal. And then England are the final team that will be drawn out of pot 1, all being well, as long as the
Joe, you're going to be tortured for 5 days of World Cup games before England get to play now.
England taking its first L of the tournament.
No, it's fine.
Group L.
Keep people waiting. That's fine. That's fine.
They're going to win the tournament. It doesn't matter, Joe.
No. Can we please stop with this? It's too early.
I've just talked about how calm you are about everything, and it's the one thing that you can see, like, It's Coming Home starts playing in the back of your head.
Well, it has not yet since I've been alive. So, all right, Tommy Tuchel, you can see he looks absolutely delighted to be in Group L. And again, in terms of location-wise, what we think would kind of happen. And again, this is all up in the air. The schedule's not really going to be set yet, but it looks like for England there, potential to be in Canada and play games in Toronto and Foxborough, in Dallas, MetLife, and Philadelphia. So just for England fans there's a whole
cooler cities.
Yeah, there's a lot of places they could play there. And again, for anybody tuning in and being like, wow, it's always worked when you get drawn into the groups, you know the schedule right away, you know who you're playing and where. That's not the case for this World Cup. FIFA has given themselves 24 hours extra. So tomorrow afternoon Eastern time, there will be confirmation of the schedule. And basically that's down to making sure that teams are playing at the times and in the stadiums where perhaps they have more support, they're playing bigger stadiums, and also the times where it's best for their fans around the world and time zones. So again, we don't quite know exactly where these teams are playing yet, but we will know tomorrow. But yeah, this is still interesting. We got Casillas now. I think Casillas on the draw. Rio Ferdinand's still running the show, lads. But I feel like we're going to be getting to pot 2 pretty quickly now.
Yeah, they're showing us highlights of the teams that are in there. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna manifest pot 2 happening very, very quickly, and hopefully we get our wish. So we got, again, a reminder, we can get the pot graphic up. We got Croatia, Luka Modric running the show. He's going to be in pot 2. Here we go. Thank you, FA. Morocco, who was so brilliant during the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, and made it all to the semis. Colombia, again, we had a comment earlier about Luis Diaz, and what about him being a superstar and a breakout star of this World Cup? And he's been great for Bayern Munich, and that's a great shout there. Uruguay, again, under Bielsa, bit of a dark horse. I feel like we said at every tournament, Uruguay, a bit of a dark horse, but maybe just scoring goals is a bit of a worry for them.
Well, right up until they conceded 5 to the United States of America. That really...
that did in their dark horse shout there. Japan, again, brilliant in the last World Cup, a bit unlucky to get knocked out the way that they did, but totally overachieved. Senegal, we've talked about. Sadio Mane, the experienced stars they have, and the added bonus of playing in AFCON just a few months before. Iran, who obviously the US came up against in the group stage last time and beat with that Pulisic winner that got them in. Korea, again, struggled a bit in qualifying, but you never quite know with them, especially with Heung-min Son being the superstar. Ecuador, again, a team in pot 2 that nobody wants because of their defensive solidity and how good they were in South American qualifying. And Austria, again, another dark horse because of some of the stars they have and how well drilled they are. And Australia, the final team in pot 2. And I think most countries would be happy to get Australia in pot 2. No disrespect to those down under, but I think, Australia, probably the weakest team out of that bunch. But lads, I don't believe it. We're kind of getting straight into this. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of delay here, but the situation in terms of where teams can go from pot 2 into certain groups is now being explained, and there's only certain positions they can go in, be it the second, third, or fourth team in that group, and that will determine the game schedule. But Nick, how you feeling there? Because Shaq's already dipping his hand into the ball here, and I think we got pot 2. We're rocking and rolling. So here we go.
Yes, excited. And a note: this will be the team that whoever gets drawn into Group D will be the second team the U.S. play. So that'll be at Lumen Field in Seattle, Washington.
So Korea have been drawn out first, and this is going to be interesting. In terms of where they're placed, I believe they're placed in Mexico in Group A. So I think Mexico be pretty happy with that, right, Nick, if you're a Mexican fan?
Yeah, I mean, Mexico faced the same issue that the U.S. faced, which is really, really good chance of getting one, if not two, European teams. So when you can go into pot 2 and get one non-European team, that's not a bad place to be.
Not bad. So Switzerland are out. So they're going into Group B with Canada.
Good.
And again,
Andy, part of that. Wanted no part of that.
Another host nation, Andy, that will be quite happy with that.
I don't know. Switzerland tournament team, how good they are defensively. They give up almost absolutely nothing. And I think the U.S. would struggle with a team like that. I think Canada might struggle with them a little bit as well because they want to counter so much, and those opportunities just don't come against Switzerland.
I think a group of death is developing, gentlemen, because Morocco have just been drawn out, and by my calculations, they're going in with Brazil. Is that correct in Group C? That is tough. Correct.
So we're just going in order here. That makes the next draw the United States of America.
Ancelotti doesn't look too pleased, shall we say, with that draw. He never usually gives his emotions away, but here comes the USA's group. All right, this is pot 2, Australia.
So I'm not jinxing us, but that's
what did
pretty great.
Before this, that was the team I think everybody wanted to get from pot 2. Your reaction to that?
It's a very good reaction.
very, very, very positive reaction. Okay.
Yeah, look, I mean, every team at this tournament, the U.S. are not a team that are better than everybody else. So this is not a situation where you take it for granted. But you look at Austria, Ecuador, South Korea, Iran, Senegal, Japan, Switzerland, Uruguay, Colombia, Morocco, Croatia. You are 100% hoping for one of those teams.
Yeah, this just became a situation for the U.S. men's national team where you don't get out of the group stage. It's a real embarrassment, I think, at this point, and it sets you up to slowly build into the tournament as well. You don't have to be at your very best in the first 3 games, and you can improve over the course of the tournament. And the way that we've seen things work under Pochettino, they have done that, and so this sets up very well for the U.S. to make a bit of a run here. It gives a very good chance to win the group as well. I think that's probably the most important thing in securing a little bit easier path in the knockouts.
It really is. And to catch us up here, Ecuador have been drawn into Group E with Germany. So another potential group of death developing there, I'd say. And we're going to have multiple in this tournament, given how many teams there are. And Japan have been drawn in Group F with the Netherlands. And that is, again, another really tough draw, I think, for the Netherlands there, because we mentioned Japan and how good they were at the last World Cup, Nick. And Shaq is, who's he drawn out here? He's drawn out Iran, who seem to be going with Belgium. And I think Belgium will be happy enough with that out of the teams they could have got there.
Yeah, Belgium, this is a last go-round for a lot of those wonderful players. For as much as we talk about whether it's Modric or Ronaldo or Messi's last tournament, there's a couple guys on Belgium. That's a that's a team that was supposed to have made a final by now. So, yeah, you'll take Iran in the first round. USA, by the way, versus Australia, just played 4 times, never in a major tournament. They're 2-1-1.
Okay. And then Uruguay's just been drawn out. It looks like to be with Spain in Group H.
That's exactly what I'm talking about with Spain right there. You're going to get a very physical, tough battle against Uruguay in the group stage. And I think we're going to learn a lot about this young Spain team.
Yeah. All right. So France, Argentina, Portugal, and England are left in terms of getting a pot 2 team. And we have Croatia, Colombia, Senegal, and Austria. So
this is not shaking out well for England, Joe. I hate to tell
England
you
fans will want Austria for sure. And France have just drawn Senegal, which is incredible.
Oh, boy.
Given the storylines in terms of how many Senegal players have played their club football in France over the years, the connections between the countries.
That'll be one of the best games of the group stage. Just
do you remember
the 90 minutes of football on the field?
Do you remember 2002, the opening game of the World Cup there, where France were the reigning champions and Senegal shocked them? We're talking Papa Bouba Diop, Al Hadj Diouf, that whole team and generation of Senegal players announced themselves onto the world stage there, and that is quite the draw. All right, Austria been drawn in with Argentina. So Argentina in Group J, I think will be delighted with that.
So England are getting Croatia or
Colombia.
Jeez.
And Portugal are left as well.
A couple groups of death possibly forming.
Honestly, I think in the comments, let us know about what you think the toughest group is so far. But I could see about 4 groups of death there, lads, at the moment.
Yeah. It all comes down to the pot 3 team that makes
this is it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Colombia with Portugal. So England will get Croatia.
I think you probably would rather have Croatia than Colombia, right, Joe?
I think so.
For familiarity's sake?
I think so. They play each other quite a lot recently, but it also does stop England getting some of the other stronger European teams further down in pot 3 and playoff potentials and stuff. So it does stop us getting Scotland, which I think a lot of people in the UK overall were really rooting for chaos to happen, to see England against Scotland at a World Cup. But yeah, I think the Euros two tournaments ago, England played Croatia in the group stage there. Obviously, World Cup semi-final in 2018. A lot of history between these two nations, and Thomas Tuchel there, shown in the crowd, isn't giving much away. But Shaq is loving it. He's got a smile on his face there. I think there's obviously strong reactions in the crowd in Washington, D.C. to that. But just to recap, obviously, you can go on our website, Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com. We've got a live blog going as we're talking, and it's got all the details about the groups that are being drawn out. You have Japan's Maya Yoshida there speaking in the Kennedy Center.
He was with LA for a little while, wasn't he?
Yeah, captain of LA Galaxy when they won the MLS Cup. Southampton legend, all-round top bloke, and long-time Japan centre-back, giving his reaction to that draw for them against the Netherlands. But it looks like we are, Rio's chatting again. I think we're starting to look at the pot 3 teams now. We are really getting through this here. So this is...
I have a question that might be on other people's minds because we've done so much reading on the draw that my brain hurts. Is there, in theory, enough groups? Because at least four groups will have 2 teams from Europe. If there was a 5th group with 2 teams, there's no hard and fast rule that there has to be one. Is that correct? Has to be there could be a group without a European team. Is that even logistically possible?
I'd have to look into this, to be honest.
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to draw up ways in which the U.S. avoid a team from Europe.
Okay, we're about to find out because pot 3 they're already rattling through, and it's we have Norway, Egypt, Algeria, Scotland, And who's up next? Paraguay, who the US faced recently.
If the U.S. can avoid Norway here, you really feel good about whoever you get, I think. Like, obviously, there are some other tough teams out of this pot, but if you can avoid that one, having not drawn a European team already, and I know it exposes you to Italy coming out of pot 4, but one, they might not qualify, and 2, there's 3 other potential European teams out of pot 4 as well. That is the best possible outcome for the U.S. men's national team. I can't believe it's happening. I truly can't.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I want the U.S. to win. I want them to get the easiest schedule possible. But I don't hate the idea of playing Egypt with Mo Salah. I think that would be a really fun bucket list type of item.
Hey, if Anthony Robinson is back and healthy, he's very familiar with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. This is now some of these really strong groups start to become, absolute groups of death, I think, in terms of pot 3 here. Nobody wants Norway and Scotland as well. I don't think anyone wants to play Scotland or Egypt from this group. So here we go. We're cracking on with it.
I don't want Ivory Coast either, for the record.
Okay, you don't want them. Okay. We are getting to some comments here. Let us know who you don't want or who you want from this group and pot 3.
Yeah, I don't think we've mentioned Ivory Coast at all, and I know they're no longer the Didier Drogba team, and so that makes it, sometimes a little bit, they loom a little bit more, but there's still some talent there, and I'm going to set us up to get drawn into Ivory Coast by pointing this out. I think they have some people who can mess you up. They still have Kessie, they have Sekou Fofana, Sangare from Nottingham Forest, Guassan from Aston Villa, and Amad Diallo. So, I just think they're not a team I'd love to face.
Yeah. All right, so we have the first team out of pot 3, South Africa, join Mexico. And
2010 World Cup opener.
Yeah, so that's great draw for Mexico, right? We talked a lot about the USA having a great draw, but that's a brilliant draw for Mexico, right, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, so far so good for all 3 host nations. Switzerland's tough, but if you get a European team out of the way with Switzerland, I think that's a trade-off you take.
And Qatar here,
and then they get Qatar. Well, I mean, unbelievable for the 3 host nations.
Real color clash.
What that does is sets up almost every other group, though, to potentially just be Thunderdome, because you're consolidating. You've brought in a bunch more teams, and you're consolidating them into the same number of groups effectively as you had before, with getting some of the the lower ranked or less threatening sides out of the way.
Looks like Paraguay here to join Brazil and Morocco.
Wow,
that's it's not easy. Cool. Well, it can't be right. They must be moving them. Sorry, I saw the.
Yeah. So that's going to go to D, right?
Yeah, that's the U.S.
USA.
Welcome to town, Miguel Almiron.
Wow. The USA have Australia and Paraguay. I don't think it could go any better than
these
that.
Next 8 groups are going to be insane. The teams that are going to get drawn in there and the 3-team stacks that are going to exist in all 3 of these. The group games are going to be out of this world.
They're going to kick off with Paraguay in the first game of the tournament in California on June 12th. So it'll be Paraguay first, Australia second, and then the pot 4 team, the team that you will likely need a result against. And the difference between that being Italy and Jordan is that's a gulf.
And who do we have here coming out, Nick? Can you talk us through Group E?
Group E, we have Germany, Ecuador, and now the Ivory Coast. So that is tricky. That's tricky. It's a bright group jersey-wise as well.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so since it should be pretty much guaranteed the U.S. gets a European team out of pot 4, I think those will be the only one. I think you do have to get one because there are so many. The other teams possibly coming out of the playoffs, we've talked about Italy already. Ukraine and Sweden play each other to begin path B. Poland also in there. Turkey in there. Denmark, Czech Republic, Republic of Ireland as well. And so, these are some of the names. It's probably going to be an unknown opponent that the U.S. is going to get for their fourth team in the group. So those are some of the names that could potentially be. And again, we'll find that out in March when we have the European playoffs.
Jeez.
Tunisia is out next. They join Netherlands and Japan in Group F. Netherlands will be happy with that draw.
Yes. Going back to that point about the playoffs, which are going to be fascinating because they're one and done. I do love that. The semifinal format, you've won, great. Don't celebrate too much. A few days later, you're going to meet in the final. Some of the finals we could see with Italy, heavy favorites, but potentially going against Wales or Bosnia and Herzegovina. Sweden or Ukraine against Poland, in theory, is wild. I still want to avoid Turkey, but I think Path C is what I want. Because if Turkey somehow don't win, it's Romania, Slovakia, Kosovo. Yeah.
Wow, this is
Belgium, Iran, and Egypt.
Wow. Belgium, Iran, Egypt.
Salah versus De Bruyne.
Boy, there's some real stylistic differences there.
Andy, what's your takeaway in terms of what Norway's still out? Scotland have been drawn into Brazil, Morocco. I'm going to say
with the way pot 3 is going, Joe, getting Croatia out of pot 2 is one of the best things that could have happened to England because you can't get Norway now, and so with Scotland, them being pushed so deep into the pots or into the groups, Argentina might have to deal with Holland.
Scotland get moved, right? Scotland end up in
Group C.
Yes.
Brazil, Morocco. That is a tough group.
Oh boy.
Wow. Spain, Uruguay, Saudi Arabia in Group H. That is developing nicely for Spain, I think.
Yeah. That could be a good group for
nobody wants Norway here, by the way. Like nobody wants Norway.
Of course.
That is the team everybody wants to avoid.
Watch them wind up against Portugal.
Here we go. Algeria. Are they out next? We have Argentina, Algeria,
yeah,
Austria, all the A's. There we go.
Triple A.
Decent group for Messi, I'd say, and Argentina to start their potential repeat. They'd be very, very happy with that. Uzbekistan, obviously, first time in the World Cup. Very excited to see them.
Just chiming in here, we could get a quadruple A group if Albania come through the playoff in Europe.
Yeah.
Albania and Albania only can make it happen.
How many times do I say that on a daily basis?
So Uzbekistan have been placed into Group K with Portugal and Colombia. Okay.
So England are going to get Panama.
England will get Panama, and
Argentina will get Norway. Wow.
No, France will get Norway.
France, yeah. Either way, still a wow. Still a wow.
Yeah, big wow. With Senegal in there, that group is going to have 60 goals.
But for England, I'm happy with Panama. If I'm honest,
it's not the first time, right? This was it 2018?
2018, yeah. Big win for England against Panama. So pot 3 is now drawn. Norway, France, and Senegal. That is that is the hardest group right there, right?
And they could still Norway. So they dodge. They could still get Ghana. That would be one heck of a group.
Yeah. And you can see the groups at the bottom there. Our wonderful producer FA is putting that up live as it's happening. We have 3 pots totally drawn. So all that's left is the pot 4 teams. And you can see them there on the right. Obviously, we know 6 of them, and the other 6 are unknown because they are the playoff teams, the 4 playoff winners from the UEFA region and the 2 playoff winners from the Interconfederation playoffs. So plenty of reaction there coming in. Let us know in the comments what group you guys think is the toughest, the group of death, the groups of death. I'm just trying to look through some of these comments here. Group C, Brazil, Morocco, Scotland. And I think the other one, lads, is obviously France, Senegal, and Norway, right? In that group. Is that the two that stick out to you, Andy?
Yeah, for sure. Group I might be the most, the toughest, the most talented, the most thrilling, the most entertaining, the most like all of these incredible superlatives for a group that we've ever seen at a World Cup. When you think about the global superstars between the France squad, Erling Haaland, Martin Odegaard for Norway, and Senegal, who have been so good at these international tournaments, and have massive stars of their own, Sadio Mane, and we forget about Nicholas Jackson, I think as well. Like, these are three teams whose identity is very much, and in different ways, but is very much, we're going to score more goals than you. And putting them into the same group is just, we must thank the soccer gods today.
We must. It's been, I'd say it's a slow start to this draw, Nick, but I'm impressed with how quickly it's going now. We're already seeing the pot 4 teams about to be drawn out.
It's what happens when the alarm clock goes off late on somebody's phone and they're like, oh, guys, we were supposed to start this thing. So also, I'm just, again, not because of my heritage or anything, but Italy only has so many places it can land now. And the few I'm looking at are all terrible for the other teams in the group. So it's that, I think, is the big draw. They'll be the first path, the first UEFA one that goes through. And as you look through it, they can still end up in Group A with Mexico, South Africa, South Korea. They can still end up, like, they take Canada, Switzerland, Qatar to another level if that's Italy. Like, right now, that's manageable for Canada. All of a sudden, Italy's in there, and it's terrifying, right?
Portugal, Colombia, Italy would be incredible as well.
Yeah. Germany, Ivory Coast, Ecuador, Italy would be, again, they're going to make a group of death. We knew that. But, well, they could make a group of death, because if they were to end up with the U.S., I think right now everybody wants the United States group. So get ready for some social media banter about how that went down. But this is,
What if it's Germany, Italy as 2 European powerhouses, 2 dark horses, Ivory Coast, Ecuador also in there? That makes a really, really difficult and interesting group too.
It does feel like for the last few major tournaments, and I'm sure there are exceptions here, but Spain, Germany, and Italy, either they end up playing each other earlier or they're drawn together in qualify. Like, the fact that Italy, like, you show up to qualifying and Italy and Spain are both like, well, I guess one of us, right? UEFA, some groups become a cakewalk and other ones are like, what are we doing?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Pot 4 is being drawn as we speak. Here we go. The great one, Gretzky, is unscrewing the little ball, getting a bit of paper out. And look at the way he does it. Just majestic. Pot 4. Okay. Denmark, North Macedonia, Czechia, or Republic of Ireland. So that is the winner of playoff Group D in Europe, and they're going in with Mexico, right, in Group A.
You would think, yeah.
So UEFA playoff 4. Okay.
Now, 3 group games there for Mexico that you would not be surprised if they won all 3, and I think you could reasonably expect them to win all 3. So a very good draw for them, and I think puts a little pressure and expectation on them as well, which is not a bad thing, by the way. They've been up and down the last few years, and they seem to be in a good moment now.
Okay, and then it looks like Group B, Italy, Northern Ireland, Wales, and Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Are going to be in Group B
with Canada,
Qatar, and Switzerland. Which
so sad.
So the U.S. is down as options now: Ukraine, Sweden, Poland, Albania Turkey, Romania, Slovakia, Kosovo would be the 8 teams from Path B or Path C that the U.S. could get.
Yeah, can they still get? Again, we still don't know. They could potentially get a Cabo Verde. We just don't know. I just don't know how the math allows, and I apologize.
No, I think with 16 European teams, 12 have to go into
80.
12 groups, and then the other 4 make.
80 has to go into Group C, I believe, here.
Yeah.
So welcome back to the World Cup, I believe. Is the term.
Good luck.
That is one heck of a group.
Good luck against Scotland.
Yeah. Wow.
Puncher's chance, Duckins nays on.
Brilliant group. Okay, so this is the US here, right? Potentially.
Yeah, unless it's an interconfederation.
No, so Curaçao is out, so it won't be the US. It will go into Group E, I believe. Germany, Ivory Coast, and Ecuador for Curaçao.
That's another congratulations on your World Cup debut.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's for them.
Here's Germany in match 1 in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think Germany will be quietly okay with that draw. Group F, it looks like it's going to potentially be out next, so we're going to wait and see. But we're nearly at the end, lads. I can't believe this has flown by. So we'll get to some more analysis and reaction after the draw. But thanks so much, everyone, for joining us throughout this draw. Iraq, Bolivia, or Suriname, the winner of that path of the Interconfederation playoff. And now, obviously, the potential for them is a lot of moving parts here about where they can be placed and which groups they can go into, given some of the restrictions around not having multiple teams from the same region being there. So we're just waiting to see that. And I believe it's Group I with France, Senegal, or Norway. There will be one of... Okay. Makes that group slightly easier, I think. But yeah, that's tough. That's tough going.
I would like to apologize to all of the other nations because I'm only concerned with one thing right now. It's the only thing in my head is who's going to play the United States of America in the last game, and the one they're probably going to need. Again, if you haven't been with us the whole time, I'm going to hammer this for the next 6-7 months. Winning Group D means a third place team in the round of 32.
All right, Cape Verde have been placed with Spain, Uruguay, and Saudi Arabia. So if you're Spain, I think you're pretty happy with that, right, Andy?
Yeah, but anybody could come out of that group second of the other 3. And those to me are some of the most interesting groups as well, because the lesser, profile games are the ones that actually tend up meaning the most.
I also think you're going to end up, it could go the other way, don't get me wrong. With the third place teams coming through, there's incentive to go for it.
This is the US path here. Winner, UEFA playoff winner. B.
Ukraine, Sweden, Poland, Albania.
Or C, sorry.
C.
Turkey, Romania,
Slovakia,
or Kosovo for the US.
I feel terrible for our producer because now I'm just rooting really hard. I'm just kidding. I want you to have a good time. Yeah, Turkey to me is the number one scary team in that, far and away.
Yeah, so the first 2 games, it'll be Turkey versus Romania and Slovakia versus Kosovo. Those will be March 26th, and then the winner of those 2 will play in the final March 31st. So we won't know until March 31st, 2.5 months, 3 months, 2.5 months before the start of the World Cup.
Yeah. Well, I'm okay with it though. I think this really has. They've got a pathway. They've got a reasonable route to winning the group and having a heavy favorite status, perhaps. in the round of 32.
And the thing is they don't have to be at their best at the start of the tournament. It's not an easy group. You can lose to Paraguay any day that you don't show up. Any team that comes through South American qualifying and gets through it is going to be battle tested, and so we know that about them. Australia can tend to be a bit of a wild card at some of these tournaments. Sometimes they show up and they just are really defensive and don't offer a lot going forward. The UEFA team is the interesting one. I think we'll swing it. I kind of hope we get I kind of hope Turkey comes through and get that challenge in the group stage before going into the knockouts.
This is huge here. The last three teams, Ghana, New Zealand, and then the playoff winner won. And it is playoff winner won. So Democratic Republic of Congo, Jamaica, or New Caledonia, the winner of that. And I believe that will be Group K with Portugal. That's correct. Okay. So it looks to me like England will be playing Ghana, or potentially. Yes, potentially. And New Zealand will go into Group G with Belgium, Egypt, and Iran.
Yep. So Croatia, Ghana, Panama is a nice mixture there for England, right, Joe?
Yeah, we'll take that. I think out of all the, I think Ghana are always very dangerous and at most World Cups, but I think this is slightly different, this Ghana team, to previous ones, and maybe not quite as experienced and a little bit all over the place. But I think that's okay from a draw from England. 4 solid teams. I think it'll be close games, but I think England can really fancy their chances of going through in that group. So, yeah, I think that's the draw. It's wrapped up. I can't quite believe it, but we finally got there. And we're going to move on to shortly having some reactions. So in the comments, let us know what you think. Who are the big winners? Who are the big losers from that draw, the World Cup draw? 2026 is done and dusted. And I think that went as good as can be expected from a US men's national team perspective. So maybe let's go on to our first big analysis segment now. The biggest winners and losers from the World Cup draw. Nick Mendola, is there anybody that you would say is the biggest winner aside from the US? Because I think the host nation will do pretty well out of this.
Look, I think you have to start there, and it's not me as an American. It could not have. It could barely have gone better. That's really, truly the case. You start to look around, even at the groups. Spain will be expected to win, but they have to face an Uruguay. Belgium will expected to win, but they have to face Mo Salah. Belgium might be next on my list, I guess I would say, with Iran, Egypt, and New Zealand. They are a team that will want to get their sea legs under them because they haven't had the tournament success they've expected. So I'll go Belgium, but I might say that is significantly, like, 1 is the US and well down to 2 is Belgium.
Andy, biggest winner?
I think Mexico, and you mentioned, the host nations, but like the way that, I'm just going to say what everybody's thinking here. Most of the worst teams from pots 2 and 3 all went into groups A through D. And so what that sets up in E through L is just so much incredible quality. And what you get from A through D is you're going to get 2 or 3, of the underdog kind of dark horse. Nobody knows teams are going to come out of their groups and go into the knockout rounds and see if they can make a little bit of noise. So like this is from a storyline and narrative perspective. I think it sets up perfectly from an intrigue. And I think the fans won because of that, not to, and maybe I'm looking through those US tinted glasses and the group that we've got, but I am infinitely more excited now for the World Cup than I was about 4 hours ago when we started this stream. And now the fact that we can look at some of these matchups, the World Cup is well and truly here.
It really is. And I think when we look at, in terms of Sorry, Nick, I'm just trying to gather my thoughts here. We
fine.
look at the biggest losers. I think we have to look at some of the bigger nations in terms of a Brazil or a France. I think that they're looking at those groups like, yeah, we can get through it, but this is going to be a lot tougher now in the group stages for them than they would have hoped.
Yeah, I think if you're Norway, you probably also go into this tournament, like to flip it on France, because they're in the same group. You go into this tournament saying, all right, look, we know we're going to play someone from Europe. And you look up and down the list at the teams that might be able to run with you or might be able to do whatever. And you say, well, I hope it's not France. And then it's France. And you get Senegal as well. So I think the Group I will feel they did get the playoff winner, right? That helps ease the struggle a little bit. That's tough. I also think that when you really dig into the matchups, there are a few groups that look like they have a first and second place team like that. And so it's easy to look at the teams you might have thought could have been a dark horse and thought, well, you landed with a much tougher path, right? I guess we should say, though, sorry, one more thing. Shouldn't we say that Paraguay, Australia, and the UEFA Path C winners are also winners? Right? If we're thinking that the U.S. has done well to get that draw, and we all acknowledge that the U.S. is not at the moment a top 10 team in the world, then you have to say that everyone else is probably pretty happy that the group, the pot one team they got is the United States.
Yeah, and I'd throw Portugal out there as well, probably. Uzbekistan, Colombia, and then one of New Caledonia, Jamaica, or DR Congo. You could always have a surprise, but I think if that's who you're looking at to make up that group with, pots 2 and 3 having not been as strong as they could as well, I think Portugal got a very, very cushy draw here too.
I also, guys, we have to rethink of what we call the group of death, because none of these seem as brutal as some of the ones we have seen in the past. Ghana, Germany, Portugal, the United States. But in this new world, some of these are quite difficult, and yet I think maybe we're looking at it through a 32-team glasses.
Here we are, and this is, I think, for me, just been in terms of what we look at the group of death at the World Cup draw. I think now there's again 3 or 4 that are really difficult, but with the third place teams going through, like we said. I think that this is just makes it more interesting. Like, think about Haaland and Mbappe going off in the group stage when they're both Golden Boot leaders and what that will be. But I do think that there's some really difficult groups for some of the big teams to manage. And we focus again on the biggest winners and losers. I think in terms of the losers, I think if you are again a Curacao or some of these smaller nations, Cape Verde, Haiti as well, I think there's some really hard draws there, right, Andy, in terms of you would have hoped that some of the underdog stories, they would have got slightly kinder draws. And I think maybe we're going back to some of the losers of the draw. We probably focus on some of those smaller nations.
Yeah, I think everybody in Group C probably is going to feel, even Brazil, because of the challenge of Morocco and a team being so tournament tested, and Brazil being at a bit of a transition moment, I think is going to maybe make that a little bit more difficult. And so I think everybody in C is going to feel like they have their work cut out for them, and especially if you're Haiti and Scotland down, projected at the bottom of that group. But we do also need to remember in this tournament, there are some third place teams that are going to get through. And when we look at the groups, you think of France, Senegal, and Norway being in a group and say, okay, well, 3 teams can get through. They'll all get through and justice will be done. Probably not, because at some point, at some point, those teams that really back themselves and play an aggressive style, somebody's going to win, and I mean somebody's going to lose, and somebody's not going to be one of those best place, third place teams, one of those 3 teams probably. And so those are probably also the 3 other teams that are not unhappy, because I think this is why you want to go to the World Cup. You relish the challenge and the opportunity to test yourself at such an incredibly high level, and what you can do to make a name for yourself and for your country. But they're all going to feel like they've really got their work cut out for them and a hard job when the group stage begins.
But whoever is in Group I as the playoff path winner is going to show up. I mean, let's say it is Bolivia, a Bolivia team that is used to playing against the best teams in the world in qualifying, is used to packing the bus, is used to playing in the weather. They're not like France, Senegal, and Norway will all look at, say, the Bolivia-Iraq game or whoever it is coming out of that group and say, not only do we need to win, but we need goal differential. We need to pile on the goals. And whoever that team is, they're going to show up and say, we're going to play at least 270 minutes of this tournament. We're going to be 270 difficult minutes to beat. And with France and Senegal going off at the first game of the tournament, one of those incredible teams is going to walk out of there with one. Well, they could both walk out with 1 point. Somebody's walking out a loser and staring down, if it were to be Senegal lose to France, which I think some people would expect. Well, now Senegal and Norway in the second round, and Norway, in theory, has 3 points in the bag. So I think Group I, by virtue of having one weaker team, has to be considered the group of death because you're going to beat each other up and you're going to need goal differential. And you would imagine that the third place teams in groups that are a little bit easier have a better chance of having those tiebreakers in their back pocket.
Andy, as we move on to talk about the group of deaths there, as Nick brought it up, how many are there, do we think? Because I'm looking at probably 4 that you could probably say are. Is that fair? And we always knew there was going to be more in this tournament because there's now more teams. There's 48 teams. But again, I think we're looking at Group C, Group H, Group I, and then I would maybe even chuck in Group L a little bit, or
Group F. How about Group F? I mean, you could see Lewandowski, Ukraine. You could see Alexander Isak all coming out of that group. Sweden, actually, Kulusevski, like that. Sweden, how are they here? Alanga, like how did they not manage a little bit of a better fate? But when you look at the way that group shakes, Japan, we know are good. The Dutch are tournament tested. In Tunisia, they had a moment at the last World Cup. If I'm not mistaken, I can't quite place it, but they weren't walkovers.
Yeah,
Andy, who are you thinking group of death wise?
Yeah, I would say 3. I think I agree with most of those, Joe. But how can you look past Group I though, and just what the incredible superstar talent that is in that group, and I think Norway is what puts it over the top, and so what makes Norway, such a viable opponent here. And such a big story for this World Cup as well. It's not just that this is the group of death, but Holland's superstar making it to the World Cup is massive. They've not been in the World Cup since 1998, and they didn't just kind of get here through qualifying this time around. They took 24 of 24 points, finished 6 points clear of Italy, who were in their group, and Italy didn't drop a point against anyone in the group but Norway. We'll see if they can qualify as well. Holland scored the most goals of any player in UEFA qualifying. He had 16 of them in 10 games. That was 8 more goals than anyone else had. And obviously we know his numbers are staggering, but when you look and see the way that it's just translating over to the country, the way that his club form and his club numbers look, it's very impressive because very few players do it for club and for country to that level. And he's not the only one up top. And so they've just got a number of players that can make a difference for that team. And so when you look at France, Senegal, and Norway, those 3 games between those teams are just they're going to be appointment viewing. And it's a bit of a bummer that the I is much further down the list, and we're going to have to wait a few days into the tournament before we get into the really meaty, juicy stuff.
Yeah, we're sort of seeing the schedules becoming apparent. I said we won't be confirmed until tomorrow, the exact stadiums, time, all the rest of it. But we know the order which they're playing, Nick. And I think Scotland in that Group C, they're playing Haiti first up, and Brazil playing Morocco. So that is a heavyweight clash between Brazil and Morocco, but a real chance for either Haiti or Scotland there to say we can go into the round of 32 if we win that game, and give themselves a better chance of feeling confident against Brazil and Morocco in the other games in that group. But
for that reason, I might want to name Scotland a winner because, and I'm not saying this in any disrespectful way, I don't rate them quite as highly. I think they're somewhat fortunate to get here. They needed Denmark to fall apart. The group was Denmark, a not so great Greece, and Belarus. And I think that they are, I don't want to say fortunate, they earned it. It was awesome to watch, and I loved it, and I'm happy for them. And I have some Scottish DNA and all of that. But I think they are just very fortunate to get that first game against Haiti and have that moment back at a World Cup with a team you should honestly probably handle.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And I think when we're looking at other groups of death, again, we kind of we put it there to start with in terms of Germany, Ecuador, Ivory Coast, and Curaçao. I think Curaçao, one of the teams that we were like, yeah, they could do quite well, but then that's one heck of a draw they've been handed there, Andy. But Germany, transitional team in terms of where they're at and the players that they have, but are always doing well at the World Cup, it seems. And Ecuador, like we said, great defensively. Caicedo running the show. They'll be dangerous.
Yeah.
And Ivory Coast, again, really strong team. And Curaçao there, a real underdog, but have some great players and have been brilliant in qualifying. So I think that's another group there where I'd focus on and say that is going to be really good. We've got the graphic here of the groups that we can see to make it come to life. So thank you to FAR, wonderful producer, for putting that up. But you can see it there. There's no easy C, E, H, and I. Those ones really stick out to me as the group of deaths.
Yeah, I don't think I would quite put E into group of death territory. I think it is wide open for second place. And to me, those are typically the most interesting ones because you're going to have the one team that just kind of leads the pack. But what an incredible opportunity for one of the best World Cup storyline moments ever for Curaçao to get Germany in the opener, and the way that they've built this program up over the last decade or so since it became clear that this was where the World Cup was going to be, which was going to afford them a unique opportunity to qualify for the World Cup. They no longer had to compete against US, Mexico, Canada. It was the likes of Honduras and Costa Rica, Panama, Jamaica that they would have to go up against. And they brought in a lot of players that would have otherwise been available to play for the Dutch national team, similar to what the US did back in 2014 with Jurgen Klinsmann and bringing in a number of German players. And that team built a nice run for themselves. And so I think we all think Germany will be there pretty deep into the tournament. They typically tend to be, but that they were not good in 2022. So we will see. But that's a game I cannot wait for, is to see Curaçao take the field at the World Cup and do it against Germany, and just the opportunity that they have there to a result that nobody would ever forget if they're able to pull it off.
It's going to be quite something. And then when we look at the other sort of groups to focus on, again, I do think there is potential for England, Croatia, Ghana to be a really tight group. Again, I'm not just saying that as an England fan, but I think the fact that England play Croatia first and then Ghana is quite tricky. It's quite tricky there, and you can easily see them starting the tournament a little bit slower. And again, not quite a group of death, but I think that's a decently even group there for England to try and navigate.
Well,
Go ahead, Ed. Go ahead, Nick.
No, I was just going to say the one big question mark looming over this whole thing, and Andy brought it up in one of the first minutes of the show, is whether or not it's Italy coming out of their path. Because I think if you were to take Italy and there wasn't a playoff and you knew they were in Group B, you'd probably call them one of the winners of the tournament. So that to me is something to really look at.
Oh, absolutely. Let's focus now on the US men's national team, because I think it's fair to say this draw could not have gone any better for Maurizio Pochettino's side. Andy, I'm going to come to you first. Given all the build-up, all the years of waiting, and they've known which group they were going to be placed in, but not the teams, and there's been so much upheaval, angst, so much. This young group have gone through a lot during the last World Cup, a new manager coming in. Everything's building towards a successful World Cup on home soil in 2026. This couldn't have got any better, right? This draw for them, when you look at playing Paraguay, who they played recently and will fancy their chances against, Australia, the team everybody really wanted.
And they played recently.
And they played recently. And then obviously the UEFA playoff winner. So, yeah, Romania or Turkey. I think that's tough, but not. The US should be the favorites to win the group. I think, right? That's fair enough.
Yeah, listen, Maurizio and all the boys in the locker room. I'm sorry to do this, but I have expectations now.
Okay.
So much of this World Cup cycle was hoping and wanting, and then when the coaching change happened and the first 6 months or so under Pochettino just didn't, it was like, oh my gosh, like there is not only did the performances on the field not look good, but the spirit wasn't there. And I think we've seen that return over the last couple of months, the last couple of international windows, and granted without some of the biggest stars in the team being available due to injury. And so we'll see, that's a little bit of a subplot for this team, but there is no way that you can look at the group that they were drawn into today and say that they shouldn't get out of that group, and probably that they shouldn't finish top of that group. You're on home soil. Of the 4 teams there, they certainly, I think, have the highest ceiling of anyone. And so, yeah, if you don't get out of this group, then in a way, it's almost worse of a failure than not qualifying for the 2018 World Cup was, because you get handed a free pass into the tournament, and then you get handed this group. And if you can't make something of those 3 games with 4 years leading up to them, then it's just an abject failure by everybody that has their fingerprints on the U.S. men's national team and the U.S. soccer program.
No pressure, right? I mean, Nick, when we look at the way that the group has kind of panned out, the schedule, playing against Paraguay at SoFi, and then playing against Australia in Seattle in the second group game, and then playing against whichever European team they face in the third and final game back at SoFi. What do you make of that for the US men's national team? Is that there's an opportunity, right, to play Paraguay and Australia the first 2 games of the World Cup group stage, and really, I mean, I would say 4 points is the absolute minimum they should get from that.
Yes, I'm going to take a page from Andy's book. I hope, Poach, you're still paying attention, because I want to talk to you. It's just me and you now, nobody else. No,
listen up, Coach.
They have played all 3. If Turkey make it, they will have played all 3 teams within the past calendar year with largely this group of players. With all due respect to and I haven't really looked at all of the coaching situations. This is why you brought in Mauricio Pochettino, to have this long to look at these teams who you already played in the last year and find the best way to beat them and win the group. It is there for you. And I think, honestly, depending on who wins the playoff route, I mean, Turkey will obviously be the more difficult game, but Paraguay not far behind. They're not a bad team. But you're expecting a minimum of 5 points would be a disappointment. 6, I want to say 7 is the expectation. And that's with me admitting that the team has issues. So it's just very difficult for me to look at the way it shakes out, to look at the path, and not only that, to play. We don't know the one opponent, but it's Belgium and Portugal in March. Then it's a 4th opponent, and then it's Germany as your last warm-up game. You are being tested. You are going to know who your best team is, and you should then be walking into a game where there's the pressure of the World Cup, but there's not the pressure of how will we measure up, because we've played these teams. It couldn't be better.
Andy, when you look at potential, even if they were to finish group runners-up, let's say, then they would play the run-up at Group G, which is Belgium, Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand. So even in that scenario, you would think Belgium would win that group. And
Mo Salah.
Yeah, you'd have a decent draw in the round of 32 there as well for the US. So once again, the way it's panned out could not have been any better for the USA.
Yeah, like Nick said, for all those reasons, it's right there. And also, if you just look at the squad and the players that are in there, and some of the form that a number of players are in for their clubs at the moment. Christian Pulisic obviously has been in and out with a little bit of an injury, but he's been downright brilliant for going on 2 years now for AC Milan. And because the U.S. hasn't had competitive games, I think some of that has maybe been missed a little bit. And people outside of the hardcore U.S. men's national team fan base might not be so fully aware of what our young wonder boy has turned into as a player on the global stage. He's no longer just a good American player. He is a good player, period. And for him to have an opportunity to have success at a World Cup is obviously big for his legacy within the United States, and he's going to know that. I don't know. There's such a nice, assuming health. And that means Anthony Robinson has to get back in. That means Tyler Adams has to be healthy and fit and sharp and continue playing well for Bournemouth in the Premier League. But assuming that everybody is there, this is that's like a perfect timing culmination of many years of development, not just individuals, but the collective in this group for a handful of players. This is a squad that not going to be their last World Cup, I guess. And so to have a moment on home soil and then build on it 4 years from now, I'm very excited about the possibilities of what this could become, made possible by the draw that we saw today.
And again, the draw we saw today, Nick, we're not by any means being disrespectful to these other nations here, but for the US, the nations that they could have got other than that, when you look there, great comment there at the bottom of the screen, from one of our viewers saying, Turkey is at 25th in the world, Australia is 26th, Paraguay is 39th, Slovakia 45th, Romania 47th. So out of the teams you could get, you were just ranked way higher than the majority of the teams that you're going to be facing. And again, not to be overconfident, and I think that's probably one of the issues now for Pochettino, to kind of calm down expectation levels a bit and say, all right, everyone's already given us the group pretty much. We need to go out and deliver. And I think there's one manager to do that. It's him. He kind of plays it pretty straight for the majority of the time, and he will be very, very wary of being caught on the counter or set pieces by some of these teams. Yeah. But again, that just illustrates perfectly, I think, of what a perfect draw it was for the USA today.
It does, in the sense that if you really look at this list that we have on the screen right now, right? I always feel like in the FIFA rankings that the US and Australia, like teams like those they get more points for winning like Gold Cup games or interconfederation serious competitions. So I think sometimes the US is a little bit higher than it should be. Same thing for Australia and maybe a couple of the Asian teams. So I really think it is like, it's just USA and Turkey, but you're still the team. You're the team in the group. You would have been a pot 2 team. Let's put it that way. And when you look at when we went through the pot 2 teams, it was, wow, look at these teams. There's a healthy amount of respect, right? And between Tillman and Pulisic and Robinson, there are Tyler Adams, I mean, apparently, who can now score from 50 yards from the goal. There are enough players in this team where they're not punching above their weight. There are guys who can still make their names, but this isn't like when, who am I thinking of? DeAndre Yedlin went to the World Cup and all of a sudden they're like, oh, who is this guy? Like, these are known entities for the most part, the players who will start for the US. And it's very exciting. It's not a given. None of us are saying that, but we wanted a simple path. We got a simple path.
You did. Summed it up perfectly there. Great day and a great draw for the US men's national team. Now comes the hard bit, actually doing it on home soil with all the pressure next summer. All right, let's move on to our predictions for the World Cup group stage, because I think now that we have it, for the most part, some of the groups are a little bit tougher, Andy, to predict, given that we don't know whether Italy, say, are going to come through the playoffs or what teams are going to come through the playoffs. But let's go through sort of Group A all the way down and kind of predict who we think is going to make it out of these groups. So let's go Group A. And I don't know if they can put the graphic up on the screen as well, but Mexico, South Korea, South Africa, and then one of Denmark, Czechia, Republic of Ireland, or North Macedonia. Again, we talked a lot about the USA having a great draw, but my word, that is a lovely draw for Mexico. I think they will go through.
Yeah, Mexico should be through out of that one, and we've talked about a lot of veteran, shall we say, players at this World Cup and legacy wise, what's there for them. Heung-min Son obviously, as has been a legend for Korea for his entire career, and the 2025 that he had winning the Europa League with Spurs, and then moving to LAFC and transitioning to a different part of his club career. But you still, I think, back him when he goes to play for the national team, probably going to deliver.
Yeah, I look at it, Joe, as a really Mexico is going to get South Africa and say, welcome to elevation, right? And then they're going to play another game. And if they need it against the Path D team, it's going to be welcome to your first taste of elevation. I think Mexico, and then I like to think South Korea here. I just feel like they perform well in tournaments, but obviously we don't know the Path D team. So.
I think if we look at that, I think the Path D winner, whoever they are, but Denmark, or Republic of Ireland or Czechia, I think they'd be very happy with that draw as well, and probably would be the second favorite, along with Mexico, to go through. But yeah, South Korea with Son, obviously that factor will be good. Group B, let's do that. Canada, Switzerland, Qatar, and then one of Italy, Wales, Bosnia and Herzegovina, or Northern Ireland. So let's just say Italy. So I think Italy would be the favorites, and then it's kind of Switzerland, probably the second favorites, but Canada, Andy, we can't rule them out on home soil. And again, slightly harder draw than both Mexico and the USA, but not as bad as it could have been for them either.
No, it's not. But if you end up getting Italy in there, you have got two just brutal games against European. They don't have to be giants, but they are. Switzerland will be such a physical test. And so much of what Canada has done under Jesse Marsh has been the underdog, the spirit, and Switzerland's just a much, much better version of the same thing. In my mind, they defend better, they counterattack better. They've got players of some of the biggest clubs around Europe. And so I think that one's probably pretty straightforward. It's just a matter of if Canada can get a draw against one of those two teams, then they put themselves in a pretty good position to come out probably in third place. Can they ride the home field advantage to that degree? I don't know. It's a big ask.
Yeah, and if you look at the schedule of games as well, Canada would play Switzerland last in Vancouver in the group stage, as it is right now. And if it is Italy, they would play Italy first in Toronto to open up group play.
Holy cow.
Would be
change my mind where I'm going for a game.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge occasion there. So, Nick, I think, to wrap up Group B, Italy would be the favorites if they make it through the playoffs, and Switzerland second favorites, but Canada have the potential there to finish second. But yeah, probably going to go through third, and Qatar are the huge underdogs. Let's move on to Group C: Brazil, Morocco, Scotland, and Haiti. Nick, I'm going to come to you. Brazil won't be delighted with that draw. Obviously, Ancelotti keeps his cards close to his chest. We saw that his reaction to the draw, but they play Morocco first, and that will be quite the occasion. And then they play Haiti next, and then Scotland last. So what do you make of that draw for Brazil? Because in one way, it could be good for them to have a tough group stage to kind of build into the tournament. But in another way here, from what we've seen from them during qualifying, they could kind of revert back to being a bit shaky and a little bit all over the place. So I think it's really, this is probably the toughest group to call.
It is tricky to call. I will put Brazil through. I think there's
how very bold of you.
No, I know, but I'm saying we can talk about how maybe they're not at where they need to be, but I think this group gives them the chance to grow into the tournament. So I like Brazil. It's hard to look past this being a straightforward Brazil-Morocco. But again, Scotland they've conjured something, and they have the spirit. And there's always that team that knows themselves and doesn't overplay their game. I think they have the group to do that. There's a familiarity in the group. I think the leadership that's come from the manager on down has been pretty good. So they have a lot of X, Y, and Z factors. But it's still very difficult, not just to say Brazil, Morocco, move on.
Yeah, but Scotland will be right there or thereabouts, I think, as we like to say over here. So, and Haiti, who knows? Been great in qualifying. Great story to see them back in the World Cup. And it's going to be Imagine if Haiti shocks Brazil or pulls off one of these against Morocco. Even that would be one of the results of the tournament. We talked about Group D in length. Obviously, we think the USA are going to absolutely waltz it and win the group easily. Just kidding. It will be tough, but I think it's pretty much a flip of a coin for the other teams. Very evenly matched, Paraguay, Australia, and if it is Turkey, then I think some would have them favored over the US, but I think the US probably would just still be our favorites. Group E, Germany, Ecuador, Ivory Coast, and Curaçao. Andy, you want to go with this one? Because I think Germany and Ecuador, right, would be the two, but then, yeah, I don't know. This is a flip of a coin.
They're the two best teams there, and they have the best chance to go the deepest out of those 4 teams there. Yes, but that doesn't always matter. It what you do on the day and how you match up. And I just look at a team like Curaçao, and they're going to go through. I think they're going to go through as one of the third place teams because I think they're going to be very difficult to play against. I think they're going to frustrate probably all 3 teams in the group, pick up, a draw and a win, or a couple of ugly draws, and it's just enough to get them through. But a team like that has to be so prepared and tactically drilled and just set up to be difficult to play against. And I think they're going to relish that role and play into it. So I think it's going to be Germany, Ecuador, and Curaçao will go through third.
Okay, Nick, Group F, Netherlands, Japan, Tunisia. And then obviously we have, again, an unknown in terms of the playoff winner from UEFA, but could be one of Ukraine, Poland, Albania, and Sweden, which is sneaky tough there. Maybe we've overlooked this group a little bit, but Netherlands will be the favourites, and then probably Japan next. I don't know, or the European nation, whoever makes it. Oh, Nick, we got some sound issues here, so we're just gonna jump in.
Nope, here we go. Sorry about that.
Okay, cool.
Oh, I get, shout out to the kids upstairs making noise. But I like the Netherlands to go through. I think they have a real stability there. The moment that stood out for me is Ronald Koeman was asked about back when Memphis Depay transferred to South America. And it was basically, hey, is this going to hurt his chances? And he's like, I don't know. Is he still good at soccer? Like it doesn't change what we know he can do. And that showed what Andy likes to say. He's going to have to get a trademark and put this on a shirt. There's a grown-up in the room. And so I like the Netherlands and Japan here. Tunisia did. The moment I remembered that I knew was sitting in my head, France had already gone through and they had already been eliminated, but they beat France the last World Cup. It's never easy to beat people who are competing for playoff time. So I do think this is a quietly tricky group, but I've seen enough from the Netherlands and Japan that I'd be very surprised if they underperformed.
Andy, Group G, Belgium, Egypt, Iran, New Zealand. I feel like we haven't really spoken too much about this group, but Belgium are the clear favourites, and then probably Egypt next to make it.
Can Egypt not fumble the opportunity as the pretty clear second best team in a group? I think is the way that I'm looking at them right now, just with the form of Salah for Liverpool and Marmoush just essentially not playing for City at this point. Those are 2 players you would very, very heavily rely on for them at a World Cup. And so we'll see what that looks like. It could look completely different in six months, but I know that I am certainly hoping to see the De Bruyne Salah obviously one last time against each other, probably after all the memorable ones they had for City and Liverpool. And hopefully it's those 2 teams going through to the knockouts, because I think they add the most to the tournament at that point.
Yeah, I think we'll probably call this Belgian generation the silver generation now, maybe due to the color of some of their hair, because the golden generation's come and gone, I think, for them. But maybe they've still just got enough left in the tank and a few promising youngsters coming through like Doku and others that can see them go on another deep run, because they've been there right at the end of tournaments pretty consistently over the last decade or so. Talking about that, Group H, Spain, obviously the clear favourites, Nick, but Uruguay, Saudi Arabia, and Cape Verde. Again, Cape Verde, rough for them in their first World Cup, but I don't know, Uruguay, don't really trust them after what we saw with the USA and getting battered by them recently, but Spain, clear favourites, and then maybe a flip of the coin for second place there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still Marcelo Bielsa. It's still some of the best. It's still Fede Valverde. I know they looked awful against they looked awful against the U.S. No question about that. But everybody can have a bad day. I want to use the body of work, and in qualifying, they did some real special things. Let's face it, CONMEBOL is the hardest. Well, I know almost everybody got in this time, but when I say hardest, I mean every game is tough. Yeah. So I really think this one's straight. I'll be rooting for Cape Verde.
Yes,
but I do not expect to be rewarded for that effort. So
yeah.
Spain and Uruguay.
Yeah, I agree with that. Group I, group of death, Andy. Obviously, France, Senegal, Norway, and then we have the intercontinental winner, which could be one of Iraq, Bolivia, or Suriname. I mean, the main focus here is Mbappe against Haaland, France against Norway, squaring off, but then Senegal as well. Really, really good team. I guess France and Norway, but only just, and I think that's probably doing Senegal a disservice. The only thing I'd say for Senegal is that they play France first and then Norway, so they have to play both of them back to back of their main rivals to get out the group there, and that might be pretty tough to navigate there. But yeah, what a group.
Yeah, about 90 minutes ago, I mentioned the fact that there's the Africa Cup of Nations coming up here in the next month, and it's a unique opportunity for those teams to be very sharp and playing competitive games so close before a World Cup. I think Senegal is going to be one of the teams that benefits from it the most. The fact that they play France and Norway in the first two games gives them an opportunity to just start quickly and throw a wrench into the tournament very early on. If they can go out and get a result against France and they could draw France starts a little bit slow and they're working their way into the tournament. I think there's a very real path and a likely path that Senegal finish second here, and Norway probably, unfortunately, for just the notoriety of a couple of their stars, I think probably finish third. We'll see if maybe they can sneak through as one of those three, but I don't love their chances. I would have had them, by the way, as a round of 16, maybe even quarterfinal team if they had landed in a different type of group. I think the potential is there, but situationally, I just think that group, and not because of just the names, but just the way that it all sets up, I think it's going to be really difficult for them.
I don't think it's going to be really difficult for Argentina, Nick, out of Group J. I think they are the clear favourites there. And I think it's a great opportunity for one of Austria, Algeria, or Jordan to really finish second in that group and take it and make a name for themselves in this tournament. So Argentina and then Austria, I guess, the second favourites. I mean, pretty clear, I think, at that point. But yeah, one of the weaker groups, shall we say, in terms of the, not having to scratch our heads too much to see who's going to win it.
By the way, still calling up Islam Slimani and Yassine Brahimi. So class never dies. Class never dies. I'm with you. I think Austria, again, we know that I had made the case that maybe the U.S. wants to get them because they've never been to a World Cup. Not never, sorry. They hadn't been to the World Cup in such a long, this generation hasn't. And for such a long time, it was Alaba. We have one of the best players in the world. This is going to be our cycle. This is going to be our, so I don't think they'll be happy to be there. I wouldn't bet on a long run, but I don't think they're going to disappoint with the experience that they have in that group.
Yeah, and I think for Austria as well, when we look it up, Jordan is their first game, and then they play Argentina second. I think that's set up for them to have sort of, 3 points already on the board, and then I think they definitely get through as at least the third place team from that group. Group K. Sneaky good, Andy. Portugal and Colombia in that group, and Uzbekistan qualified very comfortably from their region. And then obviously the other team, we still don't know yet, but it will be one of Democratic Republic of Congo, Jamaica, or New Caledonia. So I think for Portugal and Colombia, they'd be pretty happy with that draw, and they're the top two in that group, right?
Yeah, I agree. Although I do think Uzbekistan's a little bit interesting just because they're so good defensively. Only Japan gave up fewer goals during Asian qualifying, and that's qualifying. It's not the tournament, but I think that they have a couple of wild cards in there that potentially, a draw against one of the big teams in that group wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And then let's finish with Group L: England, Croatia, Panama, and Ghana. I'll go first.
Okay.
England are the favourites for sure, but this is, Yeah, it's tough. The way that it sets up to play Croatia and Ghana first of the schedule. Again, we're still waiting for it to be confirmed and locations and all that good stuff tomorrow. FIFA are going to confirm that. But there's the potential for some negativity, I think, if they don't beat Croatia in the opening game, for the fan base to kind of get on their backs a little bit. And I can already hear Tuchel getting a little bit tetchy maybe in his post-game comments there after that inevitable 0-0 draw against Croatia.
Did you say potential or guaranteed?
Guaranteed. I'm pretty sure. And again, it's a team, they've played each other a lot in these major tournaments, know each other really well, and Croatia just keep going on, and Modric. But they're the two favourites, right? Nick, I don't know if you want to jump in here, England, Croatia, but Panama have been okay, solid, sneaky, improving. But again, Ghana, I'm not sure where they're at, really. They're not the Ghana that the US had great scraps with over the years, over previous World Cups.
No, but they have guys who can take their moments. And yes. Andy is unfortunately way too familiar with this, and Kudus, who might be there for all of 4 minutes of the game, but they might be the 4 best minutes of any player on the pitch. Look, I'm Joe, I promise you I'm not trying to get on your nerves. Okay. I think England really are a favorite here. They have tournament skill under their back. They have added a boss who has shaken up not the confidence, but the ease of who's in the group. Pickford, as much as I don't necessarily enjoy his act in the Premier League, has been fantastic for England. There are some questions across the back, but I love how Chalobah's looked of late. James staying healthy has been such a player for Chelsea. He's reminded us of how much we liked him. And once you get past the backs, I don't know that there's a deeper team in the world. I mean, France is up there, but you are talking about Declan Rice, Bellingham, Morgan Rogers, Saka, Kane, Foden, Eze, Bowen. Guys not getting called up are names, right? Cole Palmer is not getting called up. Ivan Toney is just kind of hanging out, wondering what he's got to do to be the backup striker. I really think, not just saying this to make you yell on the show, but I think England is one of the top 3 favorites to win the tournament.
Okay. I think that's a great place to end this chat on the predictions for the World Cup group stage. So Nick and Andy, thanks so much for joining me for over 2 hours. Great live show. Thanks to everyone for their comments as well, and the comments watching from all over the world. I hope you're as excited as we are about the World Cup coming up in North America next summer, in the USA, Mexico, and Canada, 2026 World Cup. Head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com. We'll have all the latest analysis, reaction to this draw later today. That's what we're going to do now. And over the coming days, weeks, and months as we build up to this monumental tournament. And it's been a great day for all the host nations in terms of the draw. I think they'll all be very happy with the draw they got. The excitement is plentiful. And Nick and Andy, again, thank you so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll speak to you all very soon. Cheers, guys.